Hey guys, TGKS Productions. So in this Last of Us video, I'm going to be breaking down and reviewing one of Naughty Dog's videos for their 4-part series, Inside the Details. Now, Naughty Dog released this video last week, and I apologize I didn't break it down and review it last week. They also released the State of Play video, and there was a lot more to break down and I guess take away from that video, so I wanted to cover that instead, or in place of this video. But I wanted to still break down and review this and sort of get on with this series because they actually just finished it up yesterday, June 3rd, with Inside the World, and that was the final part of their 4-part series. So I will be doing that also within the next day or so here. But I do apologize for being a little bit later on this, but nonetheless, I still wanted to break down and review it and see what we can take away from this particular video, Inside the Details. So I guess the theme of this video that you could pull away from this, or from their Inside the Detail, was Naughty Dog explaining how they were trying to make, or how they aimed to make The Last of Us Part 2 as authentic as they possibly could. I'm not even just talking about the setting. In fact, I'll even show you a little bit of a clip a little bit later in this video where they actually talked about how they actually took 3 trips up to Seattle, which is one of the main settings of The Last of Us Part 2. We've heard of 2 settings, pretty much Jackson, Wyoming, and Seattle, Washington. But Seattle is one of the main settings, and they talked about how they took 3 trips up there. They pretty much, I believe they photo scanned a lot of the environment there to make it as authentic as possible. They even stated they went through Ellie's journey, I guess you could say, in this story. They went through the buildings that she went through and took pictures of signs in those buildings, took pictures of canvases on the buildings in Seattle, Washington, noted specific bus stops on Ellie's journey to make her journey as authentic as possible and to the player. But again, I'm not just talking about the setting here. They also went as far as making the themes as authentic as they possibly could. In Retribution and Justice, as Neil Druckmann states, and as I'll show you a clip here in a second, or shortly, this was definitely some of the major themes of The Last of Us Part 2, but they also aimed to make these themes as authentic as they possibly could for the player. They talked about, or Neil Druckmann mentions, how they actually, watched movies, read a number of books, and actually looked into current articles and events just to try to make the themes of The Last of Us Part 2 as authentic as they possibly could. And that is definitely very exceptional work on their part.
So whether it's researching a theme, let's say this idea of retribution or justice, like we would read a ton of books and look at movies and even watch like interviews and news programs about stuff that's going on in the world and then discuss it among ourselves, like what's happening here? What can we draw from this? How can we base these fictional characters on reality to make them feel more authentic?
Something else that is mentioned in this video is the physical enhancements that were given to the characters in the game. And it's definitely very interesting. They talk about how they could have veins popping out of the character's, forehead or face, or the redness of their skin, or the way that the tears drop out of their eyes. And this is all controlled by the emotion of the character. And this is definitely very interesting because this goes into a lot of detail. Maybe, a lot more detail than most other games haven't necessarily explored yet. And I'd say for, a PS4 game, definitely, went as far as they possibly could with these characters. But I really enjoy that physical enhancement aspect of things. It really, again, what they're trying to support here, it definitely 100% adds to the authenticity of the characters as well as just the game as a whole.
Some other advances that we've had is like now we can like make veins pop on their forehead if like they're really angry, or likewise we could redden their skin. Could be based on emotion or could be based on what's happening to them physically. How red their eyes can get is controllable. How tears flow off their eyes and their face is all new tech that we've developed for this game.
Another thing that is interestingly mentioned is sort of the human nuance given to these human enemies that specifically is mentioned by the co-director of Last of Us Part 2, Anthony Newman. He talks about how when he says human nuance, he means the way that basically the characters in game express themselves. That's what he means by nuance. And what's interesting about this is he states sort of towards the end of his little discussion. I think that the big part of what's most interesting about what he says is that, when the way that the enemies come after you, emotionally, or from an emotional standpoint, it makes them feel very realistic in ways that he describes that the players may never have experienced ever before in another game. And I'm definitely going to be excited to put this to the test, and be able to experience this firsthand. So just take a look what he says here. I think it's definitely quite interesting, and definitely, once again, adds to the authenticity of The Last of Us Part 2.
Did you see her?
Additionally, we have this human nuance to our human enemies that makes the situations that you're in so much more terrifying and emotionally affecting than they would be otherwise, because at almost every turn we've gone as far as we possibly can go to make our human enemies feel as human as possible.
I got something.
Shit. Infected? We got something. I'll go see what's up.
So whether that's the nuance of their awareness system of like what they should know about and when, how they convey knowledge to their friends, to the kind of emotional content of the game. So when they refer to each other by name, when they scream in anguish when they see their friend die, when they scream in anger as they're like kind of trying to hunt you down or attack you. They feel real, and it makes the situation that you're in feel real in a way that you haven't seen before and you might not be ready for.
So lastly here, I'll show you here real quickly what I was talking about in the beginning of the video as far as making the setting as authentic as they possibly could when they were making their 3 trips to Seattle and photo scanning it and going through, Ellie's journey once again to make that as authentic as possible. And pretty much is one of the directors, or I don't know if he's necessarily a director, but one of the members of Naughty Dog stated at the end of the video that pretty much, again, all of this was for the purpose to make this game as a whole, as, pretty much the entire video has been centered around, as authentic as possible as far as the setting is concerned, the characters you interact with, the situations that you're faced with, all of that to be as authentic as possible. That is the whole purpose.
There was a ton of research that was done into foliage and different kind of foliage that exists in different parts of the country to make those areas feel authentic, studying local architecture of wherever we are and making sure that feels authentic.
We took 3 trips up to Seattle. We actually got photo scan data of like natural elements in the forests and went through and walked the path of Ellie through Seattle to actually get as much reference that we could. And that was anything from going, inside buildings and taking pictures of signs on the wall to various bus stops and awnings around the world. Like, we're trying to find those kind of iconic details and bring them into the environment that once we get it into the final game, it's like it all comes together to hopefully make something as believable as we can.
Hopefully with all these things combined, it gives you the feeling that you're playing a Naughty Dog game. This is what we go for. I feel like these are all real people. I feel like this is a real place. I feel like this was a real situation that I was in, and I handled it in a way that makes sense if this was real life.
He was my partner.
Now lastly, taking everything into consideration with this video and inside the details, for the players that may not be happy with Naughty Dog's route with the story, and I do understand this is predominantly a story game, you definitely have to be impressed with the amount of details that Naughty Dog put into this game. And I'm not saying it necessarily makes up for Naughty Dog's route that they took with the story, but in the long run, it is their story, it is their choice. As upsetting as it may be for some fans, the route that they took, but you have to also take consideration the amount of details they put into this game. I think the details alone are worth going through the story and experiencing just from what I'm getting, because they put a lot of work into this, and and it's quite impressive. And I really do think, and I hope that it will live up to the standards that they are, talking about and they are promoting. But I think given the details alone, it is definitely worth experiencing this game, even if it's not necessarily what you expect as far as the story is concerned. So I just sort of want to talk about that really quickly, give my input there. But in any case, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video, found it interesting. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, share this video. Be sure to comment if you have any questions. And as always, have a great day.